Disease naturally, and I'm Dr. Maggie Yu, and we're here today live. We're doing a Facebook Live today on a really important subject on anxiety. Okay, and I'm Dr. Maggie Yu, and I'm a functional medicine MD who's been focusing. I've been in practice for 23 years now, and the last 12 years of it has been focused on autoimmune disease. Since I've worked on conquering and healing my own autoimmune disease, I have Hashimoto's. What we do in Healing Autoimmune Disease Naturally is we're an online program. And what we do is we actually help teach people how to heal autoimmune disease naturally. And today, the topic that we're talking about is anxiety. And before we get started, what I would love to do is all of you that are viewing right now, go ahead and give us an idea of where you're watching from. It's great to know the demographics, number one. Number two, give Michelle, talking about mental health is not an easy thing to do. So give Michelle a thumbs up, a heart, a wow face. Number three, go ahead and share this video now with anyone in your life or in a group where you think that they can benefit from a real conversation around mental health and autoimmune disease. Okay. What I would love to do right now is I'm going to have Michelle just is a graduate of our program. She just graduated from our program today. She just finished the graduation call. And so what I would love to do is have Michelle introduce herself right now and just give us a little bit of background where she was before this program started.
Okay. Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm from Northern California. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia back in 1999 when it was really considered the hypochondriac's diagnosis for all symptoms, and it's been an arduous journey from that point forward. But as I've progressed over the years looking for solutions and healing, I was diagnosed out of emergency surgeries, endometriosis, endometrial hyperplasia, and then just sepsis, everything just kind of going all down the road. And I was in a very bad place by the time I found Maggie.
So what I'm hearing is that you had the diagnosis of fibromyalgia, but yet there were many symptoms of other things going on, including hormonal issues, pain issues, as well as infection issues. And then we added on top of it, mental health was a big issue before you started, right? At the time when you joined our program. So let's talk a little bit about where was your level of anxiety when you first joined the program?
My level of anxiety, I don't know that I could even measure it. It was off the charts. I had 2 weeks before I found the program, I was crying nonstop every single day. And for the first time in my life, I had to go to my boss and say, I think I'm in clinical depression. I need to go and get help. And along with all my symptoms and my flare up, like everything just came to head and I was just spiraling down. So to tell you where it was, I don't know. It was off the charts. It was really bad.
I remember that call. Yeah. But let's back up a little bit. So many people with fibromyalgia. I mean, fibromyalgia has been a big basket term for a lot of people because a lot of doctors currently still believe that fibromyalgia is in your head.
Yeah.
And not even many people understand that there's a huge autoimmune component to having fibromyalgia, right?
Well, I didn't realize that until the program.
Right. And so the issue is that mental health is big because if you think about it, having quote unquote a mystery illness like fibromyalgia or having autoimmune disease where there's many targets of autoimmune attack, we feel bad physically and emotionally and on so many levels in a way that regular doctors in conventional medicine can't understand or explain. So if those of you that have autoimmune disease right now have walked into a doctor's office and felt like you're a zebra, and also have a diagnosis, but yet immediately it was being chalked up to having depression or anxiety, say me too. And you could talk about your experience down here. Many of you are alumni in here. Those of you that are alumni and you've had this experience where you've been chalked up as having depression, anxiety, or you're cray-cray, instead of, dealing with really, that's a real symptom of having autoimmune disease. So let's talk about what was your experience like having fibro and dealing with anxiety, and how were you treated, and what kind of success did you have when dealing with anxiety in the 10 years prior to this?
Well, initially when I was diagnosed, my doctor, she thought it was depression. It was stemming from depression. And so she, prescribed antidepressants for me. And we kind of battled it out. It took a couple of appointments for me to be willing to take the antidepressants. But I eventually told her, look, I am sick, therefore I'm depressed, not I am depressed, therefore I'm sick. And there's a huge difference between, it's like two sides of the same coin in, the way I look at it. And I think she kind of got it, but not really. And I tried two different antidepressants and both of them made me suicidal. So after that, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm struggling, but I love life and I just want to find a solution. And I just kept plugging away. And, the different healing modalities that I used were, juicing, raw food, fasting, Korean medicine, Oriental medicine, chiropractic medicine, herbal medicine, anything down the natural path, because any pharmaceutical that I had taken, I was very sensitive to, and it just the side effects were more than the actual solution or alleviation of the symptoms. And it was just the road was just finding solutions that would give me a reprieve from the flare-ups, but it was never sustainable because I would always flare up again, and then
like physical, the fibro would flare up over and over again.
Exactly, the pain, the fatigue, the brain fog, the weight gain, not being able to lose the weight, not being able to work out.
It was just compounding the levels of anxiety and depression that you're experiencing.
Exactly. And it's, I know there was a woman in the 2000s who had written a story, an article to try to explain to her family and friends what it's like to have RA. And, a lot of people who don't have autoimmune disease, I think they don't understand that they have energy and they can just do whatever. They can get up and go and take care of everything. But when you have autoimmune disease, most of the time, if not all of the time, you have to allocate and budget your energy and your time more so than your finances. And it's sometimes almost every second of the day is an anxiety because you have to decide what is priority, what's more important. What do I get a glass of water? Or do I brush my teeth? Do I, depending on what your flare up is, I would not shower for like 2 weeks at a time because I was in so much pain. I couldn't get out of bed and I had to choose to drink water and eat food versus my hygiene. So it was very
Well, I feel like with autoimmune disease, we have to make decisions that people don't even remotely understand. And that was your point. But here's the thing. I actually think also that there's layers to why most people with autoimmune disease struggle with either depression or anxiety. I think number one is that autoimmune disease is so misunderstood. I call it almost like the way we diagnose and treat autoimmune diseases in the Stone Ages. One of the big fallacies in it is people think that when you have one autoimmune disease, that's the only target. And there's a lack of understanding that there's multiple targets involved. So frequently, those of us with autoimmune disease not just have one diagnosis, but we can have multiple diagnoses and most of the time have tons of symptoms without ever getting a diagnosis. Therefore, we're being used to going into the medical profession, the conventional medical world, and getting dismissed. They don't know how to diagnose you. They don't know how to treat you. You have so many symptoms up the wazoo. You start to feel and you're being treated as if you're cray-cray. Yeah. That's number one, which is that if you have a problem that they can't diagnose or they can't treat because there's so many symptoms involved, you're cray-cray. So you're being treated as cray-cray by the medical profession. Number two is we look normal. You look normal, right? And yet by and large, most people with autoimmune disease look normal. And therefore, people don't understand that you feel crappy.
Yeah.
So soon your friends and family think you're cray-cray.
You're lazy. You have no ambition. How many
of you have been told you're lazy? Those of you who have autoimmune disease, you're in here. How many have been told by family or friends that you're lazy? Your kids think you're lazy, right? They don't understand the level of energy that you have and how you have to actually budget that, right? People don't understand that. And then number three, we have real physical symptoms that makes us anxious as hell over eating, over where the bathrooms are, over how much energy is, how much planning is required for every single day. Therefore, we have real medical reasons to why we would be anxious and worried all the time. And so there's almost 3 slaps against people with autoimmune disease as to all the different layers with which you can feel anxiety, which can turn into depression, right? And that's a really good point that you just brought up. Do you think that your depression caused the fibro, or do you think the fibro caused the depression?
Oh no,
that's a great conversation, right?
Caused the depression. I mean, I've had issues growing up, but I'm not a depressed person. I'm generally a happy person. It's a fibromyalgia.
Well, that's a huge point. I actually tell people, and that, I mean, if you guys haven't watched their online training, go to healingautoimmunedisease.com. It's a free training, and just watch what is a big paradigm shift around autoimmune disease, and this is what we're talking about. But back to what we're saying is, you're saying that it's the depression that it's not depression that's causing fibro, it's fibro that caused you to be depressed. But a lot of times we're so challenged with everyone saying you're cray-cray that you start to question yourself. And so for me, it's like you start not trusting it. You're like, well, am I really crazy? Is this really all in my head? And I feel like we do so much mindset work in our program, Michelle. And one of the linchpins, I mean, I'm going to ask you, I mean, you're a graduate of our program, and you have had an amazing turnaround with your anxiety. So let's back up and say, where are you at today with your anxiety? You're at week 8 of our program. Today marks the end of week 8. So you're just completed it. Where is your anxiety at now?
I have no anxiety. I'm chill. I'm so chill right now. It's like even just doing this interview, I would have been breaking out into hives before. And I'm just like, okay, we'll just let it go how it goes. And I'm in a good place. Very good place.
But I mean, to me, like what you just said was, is that your depression is caused by the fibro. You're not a depressed person. I think that's really important identity shift for you, right?
Yeah.
Because before, did you think that you were actually a depressed or anxious person? You felt like it.
I felt like it. I mean, I've gone to many therapists. I've actually gone to a therapist in his office and begged him, like, please give me a diagnosis for what's wrong with me, because something's wrong with my head. And he's like, there's nothing wrong with you. And I'm like, I wish you could get inside my head so you could figure it out. And
well, how did you figure it out? I mean, what was the biggest linchpin? I mean, okay, let's do this. We're at week 8. At what week did you feel a lift in your anxiety?
4 days into the program.
Okay. What was the linchpin? What do you think was the biggest reason why your anxiety has a 4-day turnaround time?
Because I was finally given permission to use all tools. I was so hell-bent on not ever taking an antidepressant because I don't ever want to get suicidal. Everything naturopathic because I'm highly sensitive. And, just I had to, on one of the mastermind calls, I had to ask you, my psychiatrist is suggesting to prescribe me with Cymbalta because it's common for people with fibromyalgia because it has a norepinephrine in it. And I was very afraid. I told her, I said, I'm afraid. I'm willing because I really hit rock bottom. But I mean, I really need you to be willing to monitor me because I'm really afraid. I don't want to be suicidal on top of everything else. And, I started that, I think maybe 2 or 3, it was like 2 or 3 days into the program. And just that permission and that validation and that acknowledgement and the support of just being in the program really kind of brought me back up to a level where it was sustainable again. And the combination of the medicine and, following the first week protocols, 4 days, a miracle.
But here's the thing, okay? So a lot of people think, we're healing autoimmune disease naturally. People sometimes have a goal. They think, I want to do 100% of stuff naturally, okay? I get that. But at the same time, there are many other tools. I love to say I'm an MD, okay? But I'd like to say that every tool is my disposal. I'm not limited by whether you need to be on medication, not on medication, natural supplements, lab values. There are no limits to the tools that I have in getting the outcome. For me, when I looked at you, I was like, your anxiety is at like 20 out of 10. It was destroying your life. And there was no possible way you were going to get an outcome in your life without getting a hand and control over the anxiety. And yet you were so high on anxiety and fearful about medication that you needed to come to Jesus about it.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm like, why are you handicapping yourself when you have permission to consider every tool? And we can have an intelligent conversation about this. And we did, right? And it was a group setting in our mastermind calls that we have. That's part of our program. So we were able to have a real, honest conversation based on facts, based on your past history. And we came to what conclusion? And you felt like you were able to?
Go for it.
have permission to take medication if you needed it. That is okay. Right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And that's not necessarily the right solution for everyone.
Right.
How many people in the program, all of you that are watching that are alumni, how many of you had anxiety or have witnessed people in the program starting with this level of anxiety and had outcome? And were their solutions all different? Every one of them was different. For Michelle, I mean, you needed permission to start medication. Yes, number one. But number two, what do you think it wasn't just day 4 you got outcome. I mean, you have continued. I mean, what are some other outcomes you've had in your fibro in the last 8 weeks?
Oh, I mean, I would have to, when I'd wake up in the morning, to walk around for 5 to 10 minutes just to function, to get ready for work, and to not fall in the shower. I've fallen in the shower. I don't have that anymore. Jump out of bed and start getting ready.
The energy's through the roof.
Energy's through the roof. I don't have pain anymore. I think I'm like, my apartment's a mess. Like, I've hidden that from you guys, but I'm like downsizing and decluttering. You know, I'm doing all of that, and I haven't been able to do that for like 15 years at least. My hormones are balanced. I was 9 months. Okay, if they're men watching, I'm sorry. I was 9 months without a period. And I was 3 months away from being officially diagnosed with menopause. And I had my period the first 4 weeks. And then I just had another one. And so I'm just like, oh, thank God. Because I don't want to be in menopause. I'm not, you know.
Michelle, I mean, a huge part of anxiety and depression, autoimmune diseases, because we'll talk about men and women as well, is that their hormones are jacked up.
Yeah.
You learned how jacked up your hormones really were. And that was a huge part of your recovery, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
So you had your first normal period about 4 weeks into the program. And a lot of that is about learning how to master your hormones.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing is I think a lot of people underestimate the role of hormone balance in dealing with anxiety and depression. It's one of those things where you've seen it in the program. How many people have you seen where they were struggling with anxiety or depression? An alumni that has had this within like a week, 2 weeks of having your hormones be balanced. It's like the anxiety just lifted. You're having the best night of sleep of your life. How many people have you seen that happen to?
Everybody.
All the time. Like, are you an unusual case? No. Yeah. So one linchpin was definitely having permission to take medication if you needed it. Okay. But number two, what you mentioned was getting your hormones balanced. What do you feel was the biggest game changer for you in getting all these outcomes?
It's hard to pinpoint one. I mean, everything was so huge. It made such a huge impact, and I'm a real person, and this is real life results. It sounds like it's scripted, but it's not. The first thing for me was the gluten. That made a huge difference. And, you mentioned sleeping. That was one thing that I forgot. I had insomnia since I was a little girl. And I can sleep. I can sleep through the night. I don't wake up in the middle of the night. My mind's not racing. I mean, my mind is always going with ideas and stuff, but now I can control it. Now I can tell my mind, okay, it's time to go to bed, and it will shut down. Whereas before I couldn't shut my mind down.
Do you think that it was just the medication?
No, absolutely not. It was the gluten-free. It was managing the blood sugar. It was finding out, what are the numbers for someone with autoimmune disease with your test results for
functional values. Yeah.
Realizing, what, I've been listening. I had given so much power to my doctors and just walked away like defeated. And now I'm empowered. That was the biggest game changer. Feeling empowered. So now I can take control. And if one of my physicians does not want to work for me because it's outside of their area, that's okay. I don't have my feelings anymore. It's a little disheartening, but I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm going to do me. I got to take care of myself. And yeah, that would be the biggest game changer. Just feeling empowered to take control again over my life and health.
Those of you that are watching right now, if you want to share this with anyone that has anxiety, feel free to put their name in the comment section and share it to your personal page or to any Facebook group. And if you haven't watched the training, go to Healing Autoimmune Disease Naturally. .com to watch the online training about what the big paradigm shift is in dealing with autoimmune disease. Now, Michelle, I think you're a great example of this. What you're a great example of is, I think, something that people don't realize is, as natural as you want to be and you prefer it, would you have been able to utilize all these natural tools that we provided if your anxiety was at 20 out of 10?
Hell no.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
And the caveat, would you have benefited from taking medication had you not been in a program with the support, with the lab values, testing, and education to empower you the way it did? Would the medication have worked?
It might have worked on some level, but I don't think it would have been sustainable.
Because that's not your experience even up to this point.
Yeah, it's the whole entirety of the program that really was a game changer for me, because it brought in it's like the super arsenal of tools. And
I like that word, super arsenal of tools.
And you have made us each into superheroes for our autoimmune disease. Mm-hmm. So we can now walk out with a cape and this arsenal of tools, and we can look at what's going on with ourselves. We can support each other, and we can, listen to other people and say, hey, this might be a solution for you, but, think about it. And I don't know. I don't even know how to express it. It's just, it's everything, the arsenal of tools, everything from just, from the prescription medication to the natural protocols and just.
For me, it's our philosophy. My philosophy. My philosophy is working with us is very different than hiring a doctor for 8 weeks or a functional nutritionist for 8 weeks. My goals, what we do, and the outcomes that we create, I tell people all the time, it literally is a master's degree in reversing and healing autoimmune disease, right? And to me, that's the whole concept behind I don't throw fish at people. I teach people how to fish. And to me, what you're saying is when I teach people how to fish, when you teach them how to fish, do you just teach them how to use one line, one tie, one kind of hook, one depth, one rod? Or do you actually give every single tool they freaking need, so no matter where they're fishing, what kind of fish they're fishing for, they can fish for life? And if they had that arsenal of every single tool available, how powerful would they be? How powerful are you now?
I'm powerful.
You are.
I feel
Well, and now I'm going to ask you, today, like now that you're here, you say anxiety levels is 0. How has your life changed? How has it different? How people respond to you, how people interact with you?
Oh gosh, people at work, they've been coming up to me like, what's going on with you? What are you doing? You're glowing and you're so different. And it's like a 180-degree turnaround. One of my friends told me, we worked together, and she's crying and she was like, oh my God, I'm so glad I have my Michelle back. And I was just like, me too. And, the results are palpable and sustainable. They're visible. So you can see it. You can feel it. Other people can feel it. It's amazing.
And now let's talk about moving forward. You're in a position where, you're 8 weeks and graduating from the program today. Now let's look at it this way. When, people say, oh, she took a medication. So my question for you is, at what point, how do you feel like you're positioned at this point to actually wean off this medication and get off this medication now that you're feeling this much better?
I actually was thinking about that this weekend, and I was looking at my medicine. I was like, I need to take this. And so I've started doing it every other day just to see where I'm at, because it is a journey. I mean, it's been 20 plus years my body has been going through this, and so it's not going to be complete in the 8 weeks, right? So I'm just listening to my body, and I'm, everything that you've taught us, I'm doing every other day. And if I feel like, okay, maybe I need to go back, then I will. But if not, then I'm like, okay, let's just stay on this for a few weeks, and then let's wean off a little bit more and, exchange the healing modality to something more natural. And
well, that's the cool part is the dance with all these tools. A lot of people, if you're being treated conventionally, it's all medication, right? And if, and we know you've gone through that, some of it may be suicidal. A lot of people have side effects with it. because that's the only tool. For me now, when you have 20, 30 tools and you understand cause and effect, and there's many ways with which you can approach this and you're getting successful outcome, then you can dance with these different tools.
Yeah.
There's actually a rational approach to getting off antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications. That's the whole problem, is a lot of people approach mental health and they get on a medication and they get on this thing where they're like, I just want all natural things. And then they just stop all the medication. And my thing is like, you can't just have a plan where you actually have depression or anxiety and then just expect that, you know, you have not dealing with any other tools. The only tool is a medication. You're just going to remove it and everything's going to be fine.
No, don't do that.
Here's your plan. Where's your ninja training? Where are your tools?
Right.
So the whole point is you got to get the training. This is a master's degree, and there's many ways with which you can conquer autoimmune disease and with which you can conquer anxiety as well. And, you know, and Michelle, I mean, is your level of decrease in anxiety typical of people in the program? Are you a superstar?
I think we're all superstars. You know, it's been amazing to watch everybody else's journey as well. And some people it's dramatic. Some people it's very elegant. Some people it's tumultuous, but the results are there. And at the end of the 8 weeks, just totally different people, you know, just from my graduating class, you know, just from the beginning of the program to the end, it's like totally different people and different perspectives, different mindsets as well, because it is empowering.
Well, and it's interesting because those of you who went through the program with Michelle, I mean, you guys could attest to what a transformation of Michelle at week 1 and even Michelle at week 3 and now Michelle at week 8. And Debbie was earlier in this, she was on our graduation call. She's a recent graduate as well. And one of the things Debbie was talking about is she can actually choose what she focuses her mind on. She's now interviewing for jobs where before it was like the level of anxiety or the brain fog could be so bad that you're like, it's not even possible. People don't even think they could actually work a job or interview for another job because they're questioning their own sanity so much so. But that can change literally for you within days. For Debbie, Sharmila, nice to see you. For graduates in our program, I mean, different people, different tools, different time frame, but the outcomes are all the same. Everyone's getting better.
Yeah.
This is not a hard problem to treat.
After going through the program, I'm like, oh my God, where were you 20 years ago?
Aww. So Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. And I want to, for all of you that have watched this, if you can identify with this, I mean, the most important thing that I can impart upon you is you guys need to have a customized solution for each person individually. But most importantly is you being empowered to actually know the skills and the tools that you have with which to treat anxiety or autoimmune disease. And that's what we teach. We teach people how to fish. I don't throw fish at you. So that's the result of this process is yay, Michelle. I'm so proud of you.
You and Frankie and Jackie and Rachel and everybody, because, you know, just your graciousness in working with us from the beginning to the end is amazing. And it's, I have no words, just so much gratefulness. There's not even a word to describe. Thank you.
Welcome to your new life. And I'm super excited for you. For those of you who want to learn more about our program, you can go to healingautoimmunediseasenaturally.com to watch our training. Those of you, you can also join our Facebook group called Healing Autoimmune Disease Naturally, and that's where you're going to see tons of other interviews with other graduates from our program so you can understand around all the different kind of outcomes and results that we're able to get in a very short time. So thank you for joining us, and you guys have a great day, and lots of love, hearts, wow face for Michelle. Thank you so much. And please feel free to share this video. Have a great day, you guys.